goosebumps every time, yeah, 713. Through the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? I'm flying. Sipping low key. I'm sipping low key and hiding. I get those goosebumps
Newcastle
every
United.
time. I'm coming around.
Wembley is a place for
You ease my mind. You make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments. I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype. Throw that to the side, yo. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around me, throw that to the side, yo. I get those goosebumps every time.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Loaded Mag NUFC for the big match preview. It's Thursday night. It can only mean one thing on Loaded Mag NUFC, and it is the big match preview. We're going to get into all of the big talk around this game. Saturday, 3 p.m. Don't get many of those, but we're going to talk all about it, and that is for sure. Chris, how are you? 24 hours on, two big shows, I have to say. The review of the Benfica game. Of course, we had Keith Downey on. If you haven't seen that show, check it out. There's a little snippets, a few things to keep an eye on related to January and other things related to Wisa as well. So definitely go back and watch it if you haven't watched that one. But Chris, after those two fantastic shows, how are you, mate? How's things?
all good, mate. Yeah, really busy day in work today. So yeah, I literally got back about 10 minutes ago. But yeah, reflecting on yesterday's show was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, it was great to obviously talk about a fantastic win against Benfica. And then obviously to have Keith on, and we didn't manage to get Keith on during the summer, did we? Because it was such a busy summer, and one that we don't really want to look too much back on, because obviously for a certain person who ruined our summer. But thankfully we're out the other end of that, and yeah, things are looking up. And I have to say, I'm really looking forward to the game this weekend, and I'm hoping, Pete, that we can replicate the performance that we saw against Benfica midweek, and we can do that on Saturday. I'm sure our guest will probably hope that we're not going to do that, but no, it's great to have Emilio back on. I'm really looking forward to chatting all things Newcastle Fulham. And interestingly, where I had a little look at the fixture list at the weekend, I don't know if you had a chance, but I noticed that there's only 2 3:00 games on Saturday and no early kickoff. But we have a 5:30 game and an 8:00 game, and then we have 4 2:00 games on Sunday. So slightly weird format this weekend. But yeah, and of course we've got a Friday evening game as well. So everyone keep a lookout for that as well, particularly for the fantasy football. So you have to remember to do your fantasy football team before 6:30 tomorrow night. But yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you?
Lots to unload off that one. That is for sure. But no, all good myself. A few bits around the house got done today. We are on half term, so being able to enjoy it a little bit. But all good from our perspective. But like you said, lots to unpack with regards to the matches of the weekend. Of course, the only one that needs to be worried about is the one at St. James's Park. This is the only one, the only 2 teams that we care about this weekend. That is for sure. People in the chat, make sure you've done all those good things and hit that like. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing to Loaded Mag NUFC, and of course Fulham Pulse as well, with Emilio, who we'll bring on in just a second. The hype button is going really well. So thank you for everyone that's hitting that hype button. If you haven't hit the hype button on the review for Benfica or the Keith Downer show, please consider going back and just hitting that hype button. It means more people can see the channel, be exposed to the channel, and obviously see the content, and consider subscribing off the back of that. So it's going really well. So keep that up. Great stuff from everyone supporting the channel. We really do appreciate it. Of course, Daz is not here. Wi-Fi permitting, hopefully be back next week, but hope Daz is all well. I'm sure he is. I think he's messaged as well. I've not managed to have a quick look on it yet. But yeah, go on, Chris.
I'm just going to add, Pete, something I discovered last night, and just to make all viewers aware of it as well. After every loaded show, I go in and I hit the hype button as you suggested, but you're allowed 3 hypes a week. Now, what I tried yesterday, I don't even know what possessed me to try it, But I thought I want to push this Keith Downey show because it was an absolutely brilliant show. Now, if you go onto the show, obviously after the show's finished, you can hit that hype button. If you then close it and then enter the video again, like you're brand new and you haven't watched it, it actually allows you to hype it again. So I actually hyped the Keith Downey show 3 times last night. So anybody who wants to use their free hypes, it will be much appreciated. You can actually do it 3 times, and that's the maximum that you can use per week. But it will be much appreciated if you give loads of your free hypes. It will be much appreciated. And as I say, that I just wanted to mention that because I noticed that yesterday, whether or not that's a glitch or something, I don't know. But
no, I think you're right. 3 hypes a week. So Keith Downey show, big match preview tonight, and then the Fulham reaction on Saturday. Only 3 hypes, or you can choose the Keith Downey one. Completely up to you, but great little find there, Chris. We'll definitely keep that in mind. And now that the housekeeping's done, we're going to talk football. And there's only one way we do this on the big match preview, and it's have a fantastic guest on. And as we've already mentioned, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome back Fulham Pulse's own Emilio. So welcome in, Emilio. How you doing, fella?
Hello, guys. Hello there. Thank you for the introduction. It's always a pleasure to be on this show. It's best one out there. And so I'm doing what everyone else is saying. Smash the likes, smash the subscribes, do the hypes. Get it out there. This is a great show. Absolutely fantastic show. I was saying off air, it seemed like yesterday we were just talking about, this corresponding fixture. When was it? January time. I think it was end of January, wasn't it? So last season I did it in the car park in France, if you remember, for those watching us, or for the home game at Craven Cottage. But yeah, look, it's always a pleasure doing this show, and it's an important game for slightly different reasons, I think, this weekend. I know we shouldn't get worried. You're, I think, in a false position. You should be doing better. We've been depleted with injuries and struggling a little bit, but I actually didn't realise you've only scored 7 goals. Actually, less than us. So that's keen to understand if you're missing a certain gentleman there, or have you not found your point? Because in Europe you're doing well. Smashed Benfica the other night, good and proper. I just hope that's your 10 out of 10 performance, and you maybe take your foot off the gas on Saturday and give us a bit of breathing space. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting game on Saturday for different reasons, I think.
It will be an interesting game, that is for sure. I'm not sure of holding off the gas there, though, Emilio. I think you're trying to plant the seeds there for something on a Saturday. But what I will say is from our perspective, from both of our perspectives, I think looking at this table, guys, we're both in positions that we wouldn't expect our teams to be. 14th and 15th. You're on 8 points, Emilio. We're on 9 points. It isn't where we saw ourselves last season when we were fighting in the top half of the table. I'm sure both teams, I know we do, and I'm sure you, Emilio, would expect to see yourselves in the top half of the table. But looking at this, Emilio, and I just want to get your thoughts on this: 3 losses in a row. So potentially on Saturday evening, it could be 4 losses.
Yeah,
what's having had a decent start to the season? What's been the reason for that kind of decline more recently in form?
Injuries, basically. It's injuries. I think, to be honest with you, if we even turn the clock back 2 months ago, I predicted we'd finish 13th, 14th this season. I was quite, people know me, I'm quite grounded. Clearly you want your team to do as well as they can be, but you've got to look at the competition around you. And I just felt that the promoted teams this year were better than the ones from last year. Other teams have got better this year compared to last year. So Man United are better than they were last year. Tottenham clearly are better than last year. Bournemouth, it just feels it's a tougher division this year. And every point is going to be harder earned than it was last year. Last year we had some great results on the road, and home form wasn't good enough at times. But we had a record points tally, which was great. But we still only finished 11th with 54 points. I don't think we'll hit 54 points this year, as my prediction before. I think if we get 45, 44, 45, I'll be happy. I want to stay in the division and rebuild for the next generation. But at the moment, just depleted with injuries. We've got 2 games against Bournemouth and Villa where we lost 3-1. Having taken the lead in both those games, same problem. We take the lead and drop points, and we lost those because we had no recognised striker up front. You've got problems scoring goals. We had no Raul Jimenez injured. Muniz is not back until November at the earliest, and you've got a youngster from Bayern Munich. I think we bought him outright, or is he on loan with an option to buy? Because clearly the manager doesn't believe he's good enough. So we had to play was it Adama Traore came on as a substitute against Villa away, playing in an attacking role. He played some false. Harry Wilson played in a sort of false attacking role against Bournemouth, but both taking the lead, and we both lost 3-1 those games. And against Arsenal last week, we made it difficult for them. I thought they had a bit of a battle out there. Arsenal weren't great, but they struggled to beat us 1-0. But problem is we didn't create much. That's a problem. So lost 1-0. Best team won, but the lack of quality, that final ball in the penalty, not quite there. And that's where I think we're going to struggle with goals. And we've got a difficult division to contend with. You're in a false position, I think, in my opinion, as well. And you're only going to be going upwards. We've got to stop the rot as well and put in a good performance ahead of Wolves and Sunderland at home next month. And they're must-win games for us. Must-win.
Absolutely. Chris, I'll come to you on this. So Emilio's sort of already predicting a sort of, bottom half potentially finish, sort of like if 45 points is to be achieved for Fulham this season. Is that a surprise to you? Is that what you kind of expected from Fulham? Obviously, Marcus Silva's a very, very good manager. They've got some talented players. Would you expect them to finish higher, or from what you've seen of Fulham this season, is that kind of where you'd expect them to be?
Yeah, and do you know what? I think Fulham are a really good side. Obviously, as Emilio said, they've really struggled with injuries, and I agree with Emilio. He is very grounded. He's one of our most grounded away day fans who comes on. So yeah, I have to say that. But yeah, I think Fulham are capable of much more. Yes, they've had a difficult start. Well, initially a good start, but then obviously struggling a little bit at the moment. But yeah, I think they're more than capable. Of moving up the league. I suppose. Do you think it's fair, Emilio, to say that a really good end to the season would be to finish in the top 10? Would that be Marco Silva overachieving in your opinion? Or
yeah, I think with this squad, yes. I think realistically, we kept the spine of last season. That's a positive. But late signings as usual. We got a couple of reinforcement there. Unfortunately, Chukwuemeka, attacking wide player. A lot of potential there. I'm actually quite excited. He picked up an injury playing for international football last week. I don't know the extent of the injury. And Kevin, record signing from Shakhtar Donetsk, Brazilian, again taking his time to adjust to this type of fast-paced league, but he will come good. So we've got to give these players time. But if we get top 10, then yes, great. But my concern is last season, you could argue, was an easier division. We finished with a maximum or record points tally, yet we still finished 11th. So to get 10th is going to be even more harder with the injuries that we're seeing so far. And those players are going to take time to find their feet again, get back into form. I wouldn't say this is it's a game we can get something. We won both the games last season against you, but I don't know. Something doesn't feel the dynamics. There's something not right within the team dynamics. Marco Silva hasn't signed a contract extension. That's definitely playing on the players. I don't care what people say outside, within the Fulham community. If your manager at the helm running the team is not signing on the dotted line, you start to feel nervous, right? And as a player, so he hasn't got that fire in his belly as he had maybe last season. So something doesn't feel right there. And yes, the performances haven't been good of late, but yeah, we are capable of getting back, pushing up a few players. But 11th to 14th is where that's an achievement for this time, because this division is hard. The best league in the world, and to be mid-table in the best league in the world, that's still something to be proud of for a club of our size.
Emilio, just to jump in at that point, sorry, Pete, just a quick one. And I noticed you'd already started in the chat, and while we're on that subject, Sophie B says, is Marco Silva at the end of the road, or do you see him staying and signing a new contract? Now, obviously, after what you've just said, and I'll be honest, and Pete, you'll back this up. We know Wolfie, from Forest Fans TV, he's of the opinion that, for him, he wanted Marco Silva. And I think it was you, actually, Pete, who said this, that Marco Silva, he doesn't like to come in as a manager midway through a season. Do you think that there's a possibility that Marco Silva leaves at the end of the season, or will it be dependent on how you perform this season?
I think he will leave at the end of the season. And am I willing for him to leave at the end of the season? Probably yes. Now the question is who comes in next. That's a big question, right? You don't want to overreact and do what Forest did, bring Ange and then sack him within 5 or 6 weeks. Has he got to the end of his road? I think he has, to be honest. With this squad, I think he has. And my worry is he doesn't like building a foundational team that's got future potential. It's very much he wants those experienced players. He wants a limited squad. He's quite often saying, I don't want a big squad. I want to manage a small united team that plays a certain structure, certain style of football. And he wants to keep that spine of that team, which he did in the summer, admittedly, with a couple of reinforcements here and there. But my worry is that we're not building for the future under Marco Silva. Now, I've seen some of these discrete signings we've seen come in. Is the owner saying, look, Smith Rowe, someone's commented, Smith Rowe underperformed in his 15 months at the club. There's bags of talent there. Something's not right there. Something's not clicking. Kevin, 22. There's some youth coming through, some younger generation players. Marco Silva's flippant and he's quite stubborn. He always makes a point when he doesn't get the players he wants or doesn't rate certain players. But I think it's time to build a future beyond Marco Silva. Some Fulham fans may disagree with me, think I'm going and talking nuts, but I'm seeing a contingent of fans starting to shift and saying, has he got to the end of his road and done as far as he can with this crop and squad of players? And if I'm going to give £100 million to a manager, I'm not sure Marco Silva's the manager I want to give that money to, unless he signs with the dotted line. He's got a 5-year plan. He takes his club further and the owners will give him the money. But at the moment, he's not getting the money because he's not signing, and it's a chicken and egg situation. But I don't know who could come in next. That's a problem. But he won't leave mid-season, that's for sure. But he seems to have lost. He seems a bit checked out. And I think Steve Reynolds, close friend of mine, he's watching the show, and I think he agrees with me. He does feel his head is not quite there at the moment for various different reasons. And it's official and public. He went for the Tottenham job last season. He had several interviews and just marginally lost that to Thomas Frank. Otherwise, he would have gone by now. So his heart's clearly not Fulham Football Club for the next 10 years. And how many managers stay at a club for more than 5 years? Not many, right? So we've got to think. I want to future-proof the club, and we have to look beyond Marco Silva, in my opinion.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. And the dip in form. I mean, I looked at your signings this summer, and you signed a goalkeeper from Strasbourg. Is it Strasbourg? I believe.
Strasbourg, I think it was Strasbourg. Yeah.
Yeah. Benjamin Lecomte. You've got Kevin, which you've talked about as well. Samuel Chukwueze, who I thought was a really astute signing when you got him in. And then, you talked about the young lad, Kuzi Asera from Bayern Munich. Don't know anything about him. But it doesn't strike me, like you said, it strikes me of young signings for the future. It doesn't strike me as Marco Silva signings. If I'm
exactly, you've hit the nail on the head.
I think what you're saying is absolutely spot on, and it may well have an impact. When you look at a squad of players, particularly some of the more experienced players, they want to play for now, and they're looking around and they're thinking, well, are we playing for a manager that's probably not going to be here next year? And that could be playing into people's mindsets.
Exactly. It's just interesting. Like Josh King, he's in England in under 21 international already. He's like a new signing as well. We've signed him a 5-year deal. But Marco Silva, the stubborn man he was, we were crying out for Josh King to get game time in the last quarter of our season because he hadn't signed the contract extension. Marco Silva didn't want to give him the game time. And that really frustrates me. Play him regularly, get him motivated, get him to play in that team while the team was safe mid-table. Give him some games. No, he resisted the temptation to play him because either he felt he was too young, or he didn't want to sign a contract. He's played every game this season. He's been absolutely amazing. And
Emilio, just to cut you off there, that was my next talking point. So we'll continue on with this, but I have to say, Josh King is a player that I've been really excited by watching this season. I watched him in a number of games. Obviously watched him more recently against Aston Villa, but against Brentford at Craven Cottage, I thought he was excellent there. I think he made a mistake for one of the goals, but I thought he was still very, very good in that game. Just how good is he, and what makes him, for you, as a person that watches him week in, week out, what makes you excited about his talent? Because you've got a lot of Premier League teams talking about how good this lad is. 18 years old, very, very special talent.
His technique, his hunger, he's got some good trickery and some good skills. It's just his good awareness. He likes going at players. He likes to attack the ball. Always looking for the ball from the central midfield. He's always looking for that ball to come to feet and liking to make mazy runs into the box. He's got good link-up play with Iwobi and Harry Wilson on either side of him. this guy will get better. You know, yes, he made a mistake against Brentford, but the fact that the whole team hugged him after that moment, you said, look, don't worry, we all have to learn the hard way. Don't worry, pat him on the back. We turned around that game and won it 3-1, and you know he didn't drop his head. To be honest with you, he picked himself up after that error. And it was just another player. So the fact he's got so much adulthood on his 18-year-old shoulders, to be honest, he's going to go to a big team in due course. But we'll keep him for a couple of years. Probably needs to stay a couple of years with us. Gets England international experience under 21s. He will get better. Defenders are struggling to defend against him. To be honest, he should have scored against Chelsea with the goal not cancelled. You know, that would have been his debut goal. Imagine, you know, scoring against your local rivals at the Bridge, you know, and then get it all chalked off for all the, you know, the issues with VAR. But this player is going to get better. He's causing havoc to defenders. Just needs to strengthen a little bit. He needs to get physically a lot bigger, and he's working on that. But he's unselfish. He's always looking to make something happen, trying to feed off other players and making those runs into the box. I think this guy's going places. But yeah, like someone said, it's how long can we keep him for?
Yeah,
you know, but
that'll be the big thing for them, Chris. With a player as young as he is, as talented as he is, for the times that you've watched Josh King, you're excited by him. I know a lot of Newcastle. Sorry, Emilio. Sorry, Steve in the chat. A lot of Newcastle fans are already talking about him as a midfielder and a player that in a position that we probably need to strengthen him within the next year. Chris, your thoughts on Josh King?
Yeah, he's been very impressive, very, very impressive. And do you know what? To touch on the, which probably seems harsh, but to touch on the mistake, I really liked how he came back from that. And as Emilio said, you know, the way everyone kind of supported him and was like, you know, everyone makes mistakes. And sometimes I think it's good for young players to make mistakes that, because then you want to see how they bounce back. You want to see how they react. And you know, from the, I can't say I've watched Fulham week in, week out, but from the bits that I've seen from Fulham, he seems to be the bright spark. And I think the other day, I think it may have been your last game, Emilio. I saw bits of Kevin, and Kevin, I remember sitting up and thinking, oh, he looks quite handy as well. So hopefully he's a player, you know, who can kind of come in and kick on. But yeah, in terms of Josh King, I suppose now it goes back to what you were saying earlier, Emilio, about, you know, wanting a manager who wants to kind of progress him, who wants to try and keep hold of him, give him that new contract and say, listen, you're going to get minutes here. Because it's very easy, isn't it? You know, I know people say, oh, you know, he could end up moving to a top 6 club, but at Fulham, he's going to be playing week in, week out. So it's important that you give him those minutes and you let him progress, so that, you know, you can at least keep hold of him for another possibly 2-3 years. But if you're not playing him and he's not getting his time, he'll then think, well, I may as well move to that, you know, top 6 club and chance my arm there and see if I can make it. But if he's getting regular minutes at Fulham, he can then, you know, show what he's all about there, can't he?
Yeah, and the interesting thing is he's keeping Smith Rowe out of the team. Smith Rowe hasn't started a league game this season. Now, look, this is a decent signing from last season. We paid a lot of money to Arsenal, young starlet, a lot of bags of potential. Yeah. Josh King, 18 years old, is keeping Smith Rowe out of the team. You know, who would have expected that, right? So this is it, Smith Rowe. He's got to sort his attitude out. He's got a lot of arrogance, attitude. I know a lot of stuff that's going off behind the scenes with him and his personal life, but that's impacting his performances. And clearly, Mark Silva doesn't think he's doing enough in training to warrant a starting position. Who's to say he won't start against you guys on Saturday? Quite possibly. But Smith Rowe, second season, you need to start backing up your ideas because you're an important player to us. You know, you're key. He came on a sub against Arsenal last week, just wasn't interested. You know, there's me swearing on the turnstiles. Just go and chase that damn ball. You know, just put your hands in your pocket. You're 1-0 down. Go and show more desire. Go and chase that ball and do something with it rather than just ball watching all the time. And that's the reason why you're not starting.
That's always been a weird thing with me with Emile Smith Rowe, because I remember when Emile Smith Rowe was linked with Fulham and I think with Aston Villa and a number of other teams around the time that he was leaving. And the Arsenal fans didn't really want him to go. They wanted him to stay because saying how good he was. And he signed for you guys. And I remember you guys, was it last season? I think it was last season at Craven Cottage. He absolutely destroyed us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant. I thought, that's why they've signed him. But then I've not seen it since. I don't watch Fulham every week. You might tell me different, Amelia, but I haven't seen that. I haven't seen him play like that since that game that I watched.
Yeah, exactly. The odd game here and there, but it's very rare. Man United, he came on as a sub, scored with his first touch of the game. Exactly what you want him to do. Get in that 6-yard box, make those runs, get behind the defence, and make yourself a nuisance. But he doesn't do that enough. And when he's come on as substitutes, first couple of games of the season, he looked okay. Sort of added a against Brighton away. We scored late on. He won us a corner that resulted in the equaliser. But he made a darting run, good save from the keeper. We equalised within a minute. But those moments are few and far between, not enough. And he's not. He needs to back up his ideas in his personal life and in training to get anywhere close to that starting 11 at the moment. But we can't keep carrying players. We need every player to play to their maximum potential.
Do you know what I always find mad about Emile Smith-Rowe? Because there's a talent there. He's a player. I always think of that song that we sing for Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall, but the song at Arsenal, Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe. And then it just reminds me, look at the trajectory between the two. Saka is now, and then look where Emile Smith-Rowe is in terms of, I don't mean in terms of club, but I mean in terms of his career. Because he broke onto the England scene as well, didn't he? Yeah, and now he's so far away from England, it's untrue.
He's still young. He's still young. What, 24ish, I think?
Yeah.
Just to think, Emile Smith-Rowe was ahead of the likes of Cole Palmer and Jude Bellingham.
True.
He was in the England squad and in and around that mix way before them. And as you just said, that the trajectory of him going sort of downwards, not because of Fulham, just because of himself. And the likes of Bellingham, Cole Palmer coming onto the scene, smashing it, going ahead and doing great things. But like Steve is you're definitely on the same page there. But it is a shame that is the case. But hopefully, selfishly, I hope it continues just for one more game.
One more game.
And then he kicks back into gear for you, Arena. But we've got some questions in the chat. We'll do a few questions, and then what we'll do is talk about sort of team news, because there's a few questions a few people in the chat have got, and a few questions that we've got about the team news in the build up to the game. So, any questions there, Chris? Want to throw it, Amelia?
Yeah. So, well, we've got this from Peter Griffin, but I'm not going to ask Emilio to answer it now because we're going to go to the squad, and that will answer Peter Griffin's question. Who he says, "What's the injury situation for Fulham?" I heard the several, and I'm sure Emilio will expand on that when we go to the squad. But interesting one from Dale. So Dale says we were linked at one point a lot with Anderson at centre back. How has he been for Fulham? Obviously, since he joined from Crystal Palace, is Joachim Anderson? Is he a stalwart at the back, or how's he performed for you, Emilio?
Very poorly last year. I was one of the excited fans last season when we signed him back. High price, but Palace got a good deal at the time. But he had a very poor season last year. He was not quite with it. But he had a change of hairstyle in the summer. He seems like a different player this season. Admittedly, he picked up a knock last weekend, so I think he's injured for the game on Saturday. He picked up a slight hamstring. So it's but up until that game, he's been our best defender this season. Okay, against the Bournemouth and Villa games, defensively, we were all over the place second half in both those games, but he was our best defender up until that point. Looked more commanding, didn't give much away. Fans tend to like Bassi. Bassi gets strong, but he's made a few mistakes this season, and fans like him. Therefore, they brush those over the head. Whereas if everyone makes a mistake, if Anderson makes a mistake, they call him out all the time. But independently, Anderson has been our best defender this season, as far as I'm concerned. So he's been rewarded with a captain's armband this season as well, the last few games. So that's testament to his attitude, new hairstyle, and basically putting his foot down and actually making a difference and leading from the back. So I think we'll hopefully get the best of him. Well, clearly he's going to be out for a few weeks, but he's been disappointing because he's been good up until this season.
While we're talking about defenders, I'm going to sneak my own question in here, Emilio, because I was really surprised in the summer when Everton were linked with Kenny Tete. And then ultimately Kenny Tete ended up signing a new deal, didn't he, at Fulham? Yeah. How's he been since he signed his new deal? Is he looking switched on? Because sometimes you see, don't play linked away, and then they end up staying, but maybe they don't look the same player. But how has he been this season?
Again, up until 2 or 3 weeks ago, he's picked a knock recently. He should be back on Saturday. Hopefully, we've missed him on the right there. We have missed him. I like his strength. He gives away less than Castagna in defence. So if he's fit, he must start on Saturday because it will add better defensive quality on the right. He's a better attack. His final ball from when he pushes up and is better than Castagna. But overall, I haven't seen any change in attitude there, Chris. I think, it was literally a lastminute.com decision. Everton literally put the money on the table and Fulham, hijacked the transfer and then look, gave him a better offer, matched and improved what Everton gave, and he's committed for a few more years. But he's a must start, a starting 11 player for me. He's good attitude, defensively very strong, and we have missed him. And it's not coincidence that we've conceded more goals with him not being in the team. Not a coincidence.
I've got 3 very quick ones, Emilio, so I'll fly through them dead quick. And now, obviously, you'll understand why we're asking this question, Emilio, but Dale says, how good is Muniz? We were linked with him in the summer, and obviously he was a player, there was a big scramble for Newcastle to try and bring in a striker, as I'm sure you know why. And Muniz's name was skirted around a little bit, but I think we were probably put off by the price tag that Fulham wanted. But what are your thoughts on Muniz, and has he had much impact this season so far?
He's a couple of good goals. I've seen this guy from being an absolute, who the hell is this person? No potential, limited future, get better and better. And I've got to commend Marco Silva for nurturing him, managing him, and coaching him to the point that he is now a decent Premier League striker. Now he scored a lot of goals off the bench last season. Beginning of the season, he was pretty much our starting 11 striker. He's going to be, but him and Raul will tend to alternate. But once he's back from injury, Muniz should be starting every game, really, to be honest with you. I like he reminds a bit like Mitrovic, strong. He's getting stronger. Yeah. He bullies defenders. He's got better touch, better hold-up play, good finishing product as well, and he's good technique. He will get better. He's still, 24? He's still got another few years of development, but I like the player. I think he's come from absolute nothing, went to Middlesbrough on loan, did very, very little 3 years ago, and look at him now. He's like a recognised Premier League striker, but unfortunately he's injured again for another month, and we need him back. We need him on that bench. We need him to start games and get back to full fitness, because he's an important player for us. And again, future-proof in the club, you need these young players with high value tags. If we can sell them off and swap people out, and that's what Fulham are used to. Unfortunately, we can't keep hold of our best players, so give us some money and we'll reinvest it. But we needed to keep Muniz. He wasn't going to go anywhere, and he was a bit disgruntled in the summer because he wasn't guaranteed a starting 11 position, didn't play enough games last year, hence the reason why he wanted to move. But I'm glad we've secured him. Let's continue to nurture him and develop him. He will get better.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a really interesting question from Dale, and this is news to me, so it'd be interesting for you to expand on this, hopefully, Emilio. Dale says, Fulham had an issue behind the scenes with Snapchat being banned. Did Fulham fans like it or hate it?
I honestly can't even answer. I haven't even got Snapchat. I'm probably showing my age here. So.
I don't know. I don't use Snapchat either. No, you have to. But
no idea, really, to be honest. That's news to me, Dale. I don't actually know that, but it's sorry, I'm showing my age here.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I've just seen it.
Interesting.
And then I suppose the last question, which is probably the most important question, really, is we were talking earlier about Marco Silva, and Tom Dixon asks you, when Marco Silva does leave Fulham, assuming he will move on, what manager would you like to bring in? I mean, we mentioned earlier about Forest and saying that they're probably struggling in the manager market, thinking, well, who are we going to bring in? And they've ultimately gone with Sean Dyche. But if Marco Silva was to leave at the end of the season, what kind of manager, or any particular manager you've got in mind, who would you be looking to replace Marco Silva with?
Yeah, it's a good question, Tom. Thanks for all your comments as well, because I always like seeing Tom posting comments in these conversations. I'd like to see another manager who plays an expansive brand of football. I don't want a Sean Dyche, negative. We've got an attacking squad of players, youth coming through. We need somebody who plays that expansive brand of football. Don't be surprised we'll get somebody from Portugal again, some sort of Mediterranean League, an Italian manager, Portuguese manager. Mancini was linked to the Nottingham Forest job. I think if you gave them Mancini 4 years ago when Italy won the Euros, then yes, I'd have him playing at it. But it was his fault that we didn't qualify for the last World Cup, because he was too negative when we were in a commanding position, leading the table, and we drew games we should have won. So Mancini can become that more Euro 2020 manager, playing exciting brand of football. He'd be a very astute signing for the club. Good coaching skills, good managerial skills, and will nurture young players. That's the key thing for me. Somebody like these look at Brighton, look at Glasner. young managers at the helm, they're embracing youth and they're giving youth the chance to play. I want to see a manager who will embrace that. Yeah, absolutely. That's what we need. Someone like that. And he was a risk. I mean, Pete, on all our 12th man Palace fans were all asking for Gladstone to go 12 months ago. Look what they've done now. So you've got to give managers time, and that's a sort of young, hungry, good brand of football. I want to play an experience, and the stakes are very high, right? I don't want to go for inexperienced managers. It's too big a risk to take. Liam Rosenior is a former Fulham player of ours who's done well in championship level so far. I think he's managing abroad at the moment. For me, that's too high a risk. Put him in the coaching staff, but don't put him at the front line. I just think that's too high risk when it's make or break if you're in the Premier League or not. So I want an experienced manager who can nurture youngsters, embrace that youth, future-proof the club, and then we push on. But at the moment, it's a tough decision because I think the owners are looking for Plan B until Marcos. And I think they are exploring options behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. And Pete, just before we move to the tactics board, Steve Reynolds wants you to give him a piggyback up to the top of the away end.
I know that feeling. Level 7 is not for the faint-hearted. Put it that way. I took my daughter to the Atletico Madrid game in pre-season, and we both looked at each other and was like, we need to get to work. We need to get some pre-season work in. So I've been practicing on the Stepmaster. So I am prepared to be able to make that. The piggyback, though, I'm not quite sure about that. I have to find a way to make that work. But yes, it isn't for the faint-hearted, that's for sure. And my daughter, we were at the Benfica game on Tuesday. My daughter didn't know where we were sitting. We're in the Leazes end. But she thought we were at level 7 again. She was like, have we got to do the walk? And I was like, I think we have. And then knowing that we had it, and then when she got in and realised where we were sitting, she was like, yeah. She was absolutely buzzing for it. But yeah, it's something that the away fans have to do regardless. So apologies for that, Steve. But I just wanted to move into sort of like the game discussion. And before we do that, yes, it is Sophie B and Peter both let us know that Go Eagles are winning 2-1. I've got on my TV, and Go Eagles are playing some fantastic stuff. I have to say. Absolutely. You wouldn't want Benitez.
Not Benitez.
You don't want Benitez.
No.
He did a great job for us, but that was probably the last thing he ever did, really. That was worthwhile in football, is managing Newcastle United. If it had not gone, who knows what would have happened. But I know. It worked out for the best for us anyway. Yes. So we move forward. But we have sort of touched on it, Emilio, during the show. And we'll touch on it now, looking at the game. Because I did notice there was a scroll of potential injuries to Fulham. You've talked about Rodrigo Muniz that's out till November, so he won't be available this weekend. There's a question mark on Anthony Robinson. I think he's missed a few games. He's got a knee problem at the moment. It's not looking likely he's going to play. I don't know if he's been training in recent days, but can you shed any light on Anthony Robinson?
Yeah, again, another big loss this season. He's not fit. He's had a couple substitute appearances, but he was carrying a knock for maybe the last quarter of last season, playing through the pain barrier for many games. Immediately went had surgery at the end of last season and just hasn't recovered. He's had a few recurring injuries, reappearing, and that it just hasn't gone to plan, right? And he's been flown back to America to get treatment. So we've missed him on the left. Last season, I remember the first half of the season, he had the most assists from any defender in the Premier League. So we've missed that width, that quality. So again, another outlet injury. We've missed him outright. And someone said, "Will we keep?" I think his price tag's gone down because of the injury. He's not playing games, but he's still an important player for us. We need to keep him. He's 27, but he needs to get himself fit. But be surprised if he figures. He hasn't been figuring in the last few weeks. He's still got a knock, so he'll likely be out again on Saturday. Be nice to see him on the bench, but I don't think he's ready. There's some other complications going on there with his recovery, which is causing a problem at the moment. Sessegnon has deputised admirably in that position, but we've got no one else to put in that. That's a problem. I prefer Sessegnon in a more advanced position rather than defensively, but he's doing an admirable job, and I can't complain there. But we miss Robinson in left back there.
Peter Griffin doing everything that Newcastle fans normally do. When you talk about a player, he always says, huge loss, but we love him at Newcastle. And the reason why, Amelia, you wouldn't have known this, but we had Keith Downey of Sky Sports on last night to talk about all things Newcastle. And he did mention we would be looking at a left back potentially in January. So undoubtedly, that's why Newcastle fans are looking at talented, and Anthony Robinson absolutely is that. Just to add a few more, we talked about Joachim Andersen. He did get a hamstring injury and was off. I think it was the 41st or 42nd minute he went off in the game against Arsenal at the weekend. So it looks like he won't be ready for the weekend, which is a huge blow to you, huge plus to us, considering how positively you were talking about season. Sasa Lukic, who is come in since Palhinha left and really kind of hit the ground running. We had to spend a little bit of time on the bench. I remember us talking about it in seasons to kind of buy this time. Palhinha went, and then he's really come to the forefront. So he might well be missing still. It's projected that he is going to miss this game at the weekend. And another one as well, one of your new signings, Chukwueze from AC Milan. So, have you heard anything on any of these players? It looks like, and it has been saying that these players are going to be missing the game on Saturday. But is there any news to suggest that one or two may not?
Lukic is back in training, potentially back on the bench, potentially. But Chukwueze, I think that's a blow, because I think the game before he picked up an injury came on against Bournemouth. I remember he assisted the goal that we took when we took the lead, and looked good. He looked hungry, quick, exciting, and suddenly bang, goes on international duty, picks up a knock. So and that's another one we haven't touched on the show tonight, is the African nations impact. We've got a few key players. That's only around the corner as well. So look, we've got up against it. Limited players, injuries. Then you're going to lose 3 or 4 key players going to Africa. We need to be picking up points in November. It's otherwise you've got a difficult Christmas run in, as all teams have, and we can't afford to have players on international duty and players injured and still trying to survive in this league. It's pressure's up. Marcus Silva says it's the most challenging time as a Fulham manager. I'm keen to see how he responds, and I need to see a little bit more urgency there. Hence why I'm a little bit apprehensive about his future at the club, because he's not showing as much passion as he was previously, and he needs to step up and earn his money as a Fulham manager, because this is his hardest spell whilst he's been in 5 years. But overall, Lukic is probably the only one I think could figure from that batch of players that you showed that are injured. Again, most of those players you'd expect to be on the bench or at least starting games. So benefit to Newcastle here on Saturday, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. Great hearing some of those players that could potentially be missing. Obviously, Lukic could be in the squad, but the likes of Robinson, the likes of Anderson, the likes of Chukwueze, Muniz, who scored the winning goal at St James's Park last season.
That's right,
coming off the bench. That's got to be a positive for Newcastle fans. I know people in the chat are saying the same.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Amelia, but that is music to my ears, because there's some big hitters in the place. And Chukwueze, I thought it was a really good signing, bringing him in from So I mean, obviously from a Newcastle perspective, it's good, but we have to remember, obviously the players coming in, you would hope would try and seize this opportunity to try and remain in the team for when those players return. So it could work in our favour, but also you're going to have hungry players who want to kind of cement a place in this team on a longer term basis. So it does give them an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll have to see.
You have to see. Chukwueze, I don't really know, mate. It's all a little bit quiet. Not much has been advertised there. The other players is more reckoned, but Tete should be back. I'm hoping Tete will start on Saturday. But Muniz won't be there. Anderson won't be there. Robinson clearly won't be there. And it's a blow. But once we have most of our players back, our starting 11 and bench players, it's quite a decent squad of players there, right? I think we should, hence we should be slightly up the table, but it's points wins prizes, doesn't it? In this game, unfortunately, you were there 2 years ago. You struggled when you had all those injuries, and look, good squad of players, all the money that you can buy, and yet you just your momentum was lost just because you lost your key players.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a killer. There's a few teams that didn't feel sorry for us a couple of years ago when we were going through this problem, and then there's a few teams since, Spurs being one of them, that had it last season. I think with a lot of injury, and they then finally, a lot of fans, Spurs fans, actually turned around and went, "Okay, we understand what you were going through because we're now going through the same." And it's like it does affect teams, and especially when you're not a big six team that has all this additional revenue that you can go out and just buy an extra player when you've got to manage what you've got. And you said our owners have got lots of money, but not able to spend it. We have to keep within our means. Fulham is exactly in the same boat, maybe to a slightly lesser scale, but you've got to manage what you got. And so when you're decimated like that with some top players, it really isn't easy at all. But let's wait and see on that. In addition to that, we do have some sort of positive news with regards to Sandro Tonali. Sandro Tonali is looking like he'll be available and possibly ready to start. We'll find out from Chris later on. Whether that will be the case. He was an unused substitute on the bench against Benfica. Thankfully, we didn't need him. He was suffering from a bug, which is why he wasn't in the squad. He didn't play well against Brighton last weekend, but it was because he was ill. So they've given him some time to rest, but it's looking like he'll be up and ready to go. So a player that won't be available for the game on Saturday, but is back in training, is Johan Wieser. Lots of talk that now potentially could be. There's rumours, social media rumours, that he might be on the bench against Tottenham on Wednesday. I very much doubt it, but the rumours are that he could be back in the squad very, very soon, which is music to our ears. And when you mentioned AFCON, Emilio, my hands went to my head, and Chris knows why, because me and the president of Congo do not get on. We do not get on. We don't see eye to eye for his nation's staff members' treatment of him whilst on international duty, just days, minutes even after he signed for Newcastle United. So I'm not happy with him. And look, everyone will always want to represent their country, but from a selfish point of view, I really hope he doesn't go to AFCON and prioritises playing for his club, playing Champions League football and getting himself back. Fingers crossed on that one. That's for sure. I'm going to move to the final point now of this section when we look at the team news. We want to get your thoughts on the team news, so we always get the tactics board up. Hopefully you can see that on the screen. The squad for Fulham here. So before you leave us, Emilio, what we'd like you to do is two things. We would like you to give us your projected 11 that you think will start the game on Saturday and potential formation, and then to finish off before you leave us, a score prediction. So let's start with the first 11 to begin.
Yeah, this is going to be a bit subjective here as well, just because of the uncertainty of the injuries. But I think obviously Leno, I think it will always be the first choice goalkeeper. Had a good game against Arsenal last week. There were some critics for the previous two games, but I think he could have done better in a couple of the goals he conceded against Villa and Bournemouth. But he's an important player for us. He commands his box well, and for what we paid for him, he's been an absolute great servant for the club. So no, absolutely. I think Kenny Tete will start at right back. I think if he's fit to be on the bench, he should start the game. We need him up and running. That strength, that quality. Castagne's done a steady Eddie job, but you're a bench player, not a starting 11 player for me. On the left hand side, I'm going to put Ryan Sessegnon. I think there's no other alternative.
Yeah,
this is where it gets a little bit tricky now because Anderson's got injured. Cuenca came in last week, played probably his best game for Fulham in place of Bassi. Bassi, there's rumours that he was rested because of the African nation. Oh, he was playing some international games last week. I'm hearing from a reliable source that he was dropped.
Wow.
Wasn't rested, he was dropped. And him and Cuenca are both left-footed. So I'm in a dilemma because Cuenca's had a very good game against Arsenal last week. He's probably the best. Him and Leno are the best two players. You can't drop him. So
could they play both?
It's I can see him playing five at the back. I can see him playing five at the back, and that's where I'm coming from. I actually think you may be putting Sessegnon, Tete, Cuenca, Diop. I'm uncertain. Steve Reynolds, I know you see what you think, but I think he'll probably play five at the back with the two fullbacks. Opinion. Away from home, he tends to play a little bit more conservative, and it's important not to lose this game on Saturday. So I can see, but who would you put in there? You could put Bassi, you could put Cuenca, and then put Diop. I think that's a bit too defensive, in my opinion. But I'm going to go for a conventional 4-4-2. So put Bassi and put Diop in there, even though Cuenca had a very good game. So I think people may think, well, actually, it's a shame that he gets dropped, but I want Bassi back in that starting 11. He's an important player for us, even though he's not had the best of seasons so far.
Okay.
In midfield, Sander Berger, again, steady Eddie, not always fancy football, but he keeps the ball moving. He's had a sluggish start to the season, but I thought against Arsenal he looked good. He tried to make things happen, keep the ball moving. I like him there.
He's technically a very good player, isn't he? He's really good with the ball.
For Norway, he plays in a more attacking role. So I've seen him play, comes forward, he scores goals for his country. He hasn't scored for Fulham yet, but there's no one else to play in that position. So Sanderberg, I think, picks himself there. Tom Kenny picked a knock again. He came in for Lukic last weekend, but again picked up an injury. I don't know if he's fit for the game. I think Lukic will start. If Lukic is ready, Lukic will start on Saturday.
So will you put them in as a two together? Is that how it will work?
Yeah, Lukic tends to play a little bit more ahead of him there.
So
Berger will sit in front of the defence.
Okay.
And then I think you've got no choice if you put Harry Wilson on the right.
How's he been getting on for you?
Solid. I like Harry, but I think he's more effective when he's off the bench as an impact player rather than starting as a natural wide player. But with all the injuries, there's limited competition at the moment there. Traore is really not good enough, to be honest with you. Has all the potential. We've talked about this many, many times, but it's Harry. I think at the moment, whilst there's nobody else there, he will ultimately play on the right. But I prefer him when he's off the bench. He scored 2 good goals against Brentford last month, but it's solid, but don't think he's good enough to play in, week out.
Okay.
You'll have Alex Iwobi on the left.
Yeah, good player. You know what? I'll be honest. At Arsenal and at Everton, I didn't really rate him very highly, but I have to say, since he's made the move to Fulham, I've really seen the quality in his game. He's become a really important player for Fulham, and seems to when he's on the song, everything seems to go through him, or anything good in the game tends to go through him, which is a compliment.
And there's another angle to look at it here as well. It's when we had to make some substitutes against Arsenal, Alex played in a more central role, right? And I thought he was more effective playing as a sort of a number 8 rather than playing on the left. So it could be some tactical changes with so many injuries. I could see Marco Silva making some interesting changes. He may even put Iwobi there instead of Sasa Lukic, possibly. Yeah, and play him and then Josh King playing in front of him, and putting maybe Kevin on the left. So he's got options, Marco Silva, but he tends to not really. He's not unpredictable, shall we say. He's fairly predictable with his starting 11, but you may see a slightly different formation just because of injuries and trying something a little bit different. But I think if you go for the conventional position, I think Alex will start on the left. Josh King will then play behind Raul Jimenez.
Josh King, put him in there.
And so that's why I think if we potentially put Alex Iwobi in place of Lukic and Iwobi playing in that sort of more attacking midfield, that could be an exciting start position. But I'm not sure if Marco Silva's got the ball to play like that and play a little bit more conventional. But that's probably the most likely starting 11 and positions. But a lot of it's how ready is Kenny Tete and how ready is Sasha Lukic.
Absolutely. But yeah, still some talent in that team. Jimenez is a handful. Iwobi we've talked about. Josh King we've talked about. Obviously, Sander Berg is a player we've not talked about, but is technically very, very capable. And Harry Wilson always seems to have a decent game against Newcastle, particularly at St James. He did it for Bournemouth previously as well. He always seems to play well against, because even if he's not playing well, he has got a wand of a left foot, and he is capable of producing a moment in the game. But no, it's a very, very interesting team that you put out there. But just before we let you go, Emilio, in your heart of hearts, and Steve has already put his comments in the chat with regards to predictions. Come 5 o'clock Saturday evening, what do you think the score will be at St James's Park?
Obviously, realistically, I think you'll win. I think you've obviously got less injuries, good squad of players. You've good coming off the back of a convincing win against Benfica. But on our day, we can still cause problems. Yeah, even with this squad here depleted with injuries, we've still got a good bench. You've got Kevin, you've got Smith Rowe. There's other players. Traore, is hit and miss. But some of these are no mugs, to be honest with you. So I think we will lose. I think I'm not going to be as negative as Steve. I think probably 2-1, 2-0 Newcastle. I'd like to think we can score, but we've got to. I'm worried about the lack of creativity and creating enough clear-cut chances. That's the problem. Whilst we've got these injuries, but with Josh King, with Iwobi and Wilson, there's a lot of attacking threat there, to be honest with you. But we've got to get that. But you've got, you're in good form as well at the moment. But you're not conceding as many goals as we are. Yet you've scored less. So again, you can see where you're getting your points from having a meaner defence. Whereas, we're unfortunately our run of form recently has not been particularly good. So we need to stop that rot. But we've got bigger games, more important games to come in November. Get those players fit for those, and then pick up the points accordingly. This is, I don't want to say a free hit, but it's a win. We can get something out of the game, but I'm not expecting much. 2-0, 2-1 really to Newcastle. Interesting,
very, very interesting. Look, Emilio, we'll just continue on and just finish off the starting 11 for Newcastle. But it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, Emilio. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
Everyone in the chat says the same, but it's just we feel like we can just talk to you for hours on football.
Likewise, it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Just promote where people can find you on socials and podcast related before we go.
Yeah. So personal one's Teddy Nella. That hasn't changed. And the Fulham Pulse, it's getting a little bit more. There's a bit more content coming through there. So please follow, guys. And look, wish you best for the rest of the season, except for Saturday. And look, always keep a lookout for Newcastle. Always want you guys to do well. You've got a passionate fan base. You've got a great show here. So smash those likes, subscribe, please. Subscribe to me as well.
Of course.
And hopefully, I'll see you maybe Saturday evening or for the corresponding home game later this year. So good luck and thanks for having me on as always.
Pleasure, Emilio. Look, we'll always be in touch anyway. No doubt we'll exchange a few messages Saturday around. But as Loaded Mag, as we've put in the channel as well, your socials, your YouTube channel, people go and subscribe to the Fulham Pulse. Check out Emilio's content. You know how knowledgeable he is on football, so it'll always be a good listen. Make sure you go in and subscribe to that as well, and support our friends, our content creation friends, because we always get the best on Loaded Mag NUFC, particularly the big match previews, and Emilio is absolutely one of them. But have a great evening, Emilio. Best of luck for the season.
See you soon. All the best. Take care.
Take care, Emilio.
Bye-bye. Thanks. Bye.
Brilliant to have Emilio on. Great guy, as always.
Yeah, absolutely.
People always talk so positively about him, and he is a very, very knowledgeable fan of football. And thank you to all the Fulham fans that are involved. Obviously, Steve is a big supporter of the channel as well. So we've got our Fulham team, Chris.
We have.
We're not done, by the way, people in the chat. We're going to be going through the Newcastle team before we leave, so there's still more to come. Just an update, Villa did miss a penalty. Is it 85, 86th minute or something along those lines, maybe a little bit further on. I'm slightly behind. Legal means, of course, but they missed the penalty. Still 2-1 down to go Eagles. Sophie Bian, others, Peter Griffin, etc. are keeping us abreast of all the latest going-ons of Villa. Why are we keeping such an eye on Villa these days? Who knows? But, but we've got more pressing things to talk about, and I've I've delayed it long enough, Chris. I've delayed it long enough. We have started 11 to get through. So you can do the honours for us, mate. What do you think the starting 11 will be on Saturday?
Yeah, well, interestingly, Pete, in the chat, Tom Dixon put his predicted team in. And I looked at it and I thought, I think there's one I disagree with. And then a little bit later, Tom then put another team in, and I was like, yeah, that's the team I'm thinking. So without giving any spoilers, I think Nick Pope will be in goal.
Okay, Nick Pope.
Of course he should be.
In the middle of our goal, Nick Pope.
Exactly.
In the middle of our goal. I love it.
The right back, well, the back four won't come as any surprise. So the back four will remain the same, as will the goalie. So I'm going to go with Kieran Trippier at right back.
Okay, let's do it.
I'm going to go with Malik Chow at right centre back. Feels really strange not having Fabian Schär there. Still feels really strange, but you can't break up this partnership. You really can't. And while they're fit and they're ready, I'm going to say Sven Bottom at left centre back.
It's just too good.
It's too good.
It's about pairings are too good. Those guys, for the fact that they've never played with each other before this season, just seem to be so well in sync. It's madness, absolute madness how good they've already become as a partnership. And it's no slant on Fabian Schär, as you mentioned. It's just because, and this is what we wanted. We both said it at the start of the season, Chris. It was like, you want Malik Chow to come in, and when he comes in, take his off in the shirt. That's exactly what he's doing. Places. Sorry, mate, Karen.
No, and do you know what Genie Esther's just said in the chat? Schär will likely start on Wednesday versus Tottenham, and do you know what? I can't really disagree with that. That could well be the case, Genie Esther, but again, we don't want to give it too much away because we may be doing an away days for Tottenham, but who knows? In terms of the left back, some people may groan, some people may not. I don't know, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it will be Dan Burn at left back.
Put it this way: we haven't got a choice at this moment in time. And as I said on the review, I watched the game back again today, and other than that 15 minutes, so it was about 14 minutes when Luca Bacchio had that chance where he kind of misjudged the ball, and there was, from that point on, there was about a 15-minute spell where Dan Burn was a little bit rocky and Luca Bacchio was kind of in the ascendancy in terms of his game. After that point, mate,
he was fine.
Dan Burn nailed him to the max. Like he nailed him down. So if you look on the basis of the game, apart from that 15 minutes, Dan Burn actually locked him up for the majority of that game. So actually, you know what? That's what I'm saying. Fair play to Dan Burn. Like, he's not a left back, but apart from that period of time, it was almost like you had to figure him out. And once he figured it out, gone, okay,
it was like, I've got this. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So not as bad as you think. And we'll talk about it in a second. But carry on with the team, fella.
Yeah, mate. So in the number 6, I'm going to say Sandro Tonali. I think Sandro comes back this game. As well as Louis Miley played, and it kind of leads into what Genie Esther said. I think it would not surprise me to see Louis Miley play against Tottenham. But I think a fully fit, ready to go Sandro Tonali. I think Sandro Tonali will play. On the right side of midfield, our captain, Bruno Guimaraes. I think he will play.
Bruno.
I love the way I always say commentator, but that's the wrong word. What's the word for the person? What is it? Yeah, the guy in the tannoy. Yeah, and the way everyone else gets the full name, and then he just gets Bruno. Love that. So yeah, Bruno will be right centre mid, and for me, Pete.
Hold your hats, people.
I know. For me, I think left centre mid will be Joe Linton. I think Joe Linton comes back in. And the reason I say that is not because, I did toy with starting the exact same team, that played against Benfica. But this is about squad rotation. I actually think this game suits Joe Linton. I think Fulham have quite a combative midfield. You know, Sasha Lukic, big fella, as is Sander Berg. I actually think this, this midfield battle, it will be a physical one, and I actually think that Joe Linton, suits this game, and it wouldn't surprise me again, to refer to Tottenham, to see Jacob Ramsey start midweek against Tottenham. So I'm going to say Joe Linton. And the left wing position, for me, it has to be Anthony Gordon. It has to be Anthony Gordon, and it's up to him to put in a performance like he did against Benfica, and I hope he does. Through the middle, our main man, Nick Voltemade. I think he will start against Fulham. And this one is a contentious one. This is another one, and this is where Tom corrected himself. And for me, I think it has to be, and I really, really hope it is, Pete, it has to be Jacob Murphy. It has to be Jacob Murphy. I want to see Jacob Murphy playing right wing. I'm not writing Anthony Elanga off, but I have to admit, and it's probably for another show, I do have concerns over Anthony Elanga. Now, do I think that he will turn out to be a good player for Newcastle United? I fully believe he will. I know that Eddie Howe is a big fan of Anthony Elanga, and I think he has all the raw materials to be a really, really good player for Newcastle United. But I just don't think he's in a very good space at the moment. I really don't. My biggest concern with Anthony Elanga, and I think I've mentioned this to you and Daz previously, Pete, it's not that I don't think he's going to turn out to be good, but I'm seeing the basics not happen. The touch is off. I think some of his decision making's not quite there. Now, to me, and obviously I'm not suggesting Anthony Elanga doesn't have a good touch. I'm not suggesting Anthony Elanga doesn't make the right decisions, because we saw that for Nottingham Forest in spadefuls. So I'm wondering whether it's a bit of a confidence issue. And I think rather than, this game, Pete, is a must win. It's a must win. We've got to back this up, and it's a must win. Now, in my opinion, you put in your strongest players in certain positions. And for me, at the moment, that is Jacob Murphy. And Jacob Murphy is producing the goods. Fantastic assist for our first goal for Anthony Gordon. So for me, you play the player in form, which is Jacob Murphy, and by all means bring Anthony Elanga on. But I just think that we need to go with tried and tested at this minute, because we need to gain a bit of a momentum. We need to really kick on. So for me, that is the starting 11 that I would pick, and that is the starting 11 that I believe Eddie Howe will pick. But what do you think, Pete?
No, what you picked is strong. I like it. I'm just seeing. I'm a couple of minutes behind, but I'm just seeing Go Eagles celebrate like mad. They have won the game 2-1 against Aston Villa. So it's a huge disappointment for Villa. A huge monumental win for Go Eagles against Aston Villa. And they're properly celebrated, and rightly so. From what I've seen in the game, they've been excellent. So big up to Sophie, Peter Griffin, etc., that have kept us in touch with the score as the game's been going on during the show. As I said, Chris, strong team that you put out there. The back five speaks for itself. No issue with that at all. Malik Chow and Sven Botman. I think a couple of you raised the question in the chat, and you raised the point as well about Fabian Shaw. I've got to be honest, Chris. I'd be playing, providing that they don't get injured on Saturday, fingers crossed, touch wood and all that. I'd be playing Chow and Botman again.
I know. Do you know what? It's a big game in the cup. It is a big game. I'm just thinking, because I know in the coming weeks, we know we've got a really big fixture schedule. And I suppose for consistency, absolutely. And I do want to see Chow and Botman, but then I've got this nagging thought in my ear saying to me, you're going to need to rotate players at some point. You really going to have to rotate players. And so I see both sides, Pete. I do.
I agree with the points that were made in the chat. I actually think Shaw will start, but I personally would play Malik Chow. If he's fit and available, I would play him. He's had 2 weeks rest where he hasn't been picked for internationals. He played at Brighton, he's played at Benfica, he'll play at Fulham. He's fit enough and young enough to be able to consistently play in those games. If it was a Sven Botman situation, obviously because of his previous injuries, I could maybe understand giving him a rest. With Malik Chow, because Fabian Shaw ain't going to come in to replace Sven Botman. Dan Burn had come in to replace Sven Botman, but we don't have a left back.
We need the left back. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If Malik Charles fit, and it is a big game, it's a big game, and we want to get through to the next round of the cup. So it's a case of we need to make sure that we get through and against Tottenham. But I mean, we'll come back to that in a second. Anyway, back five is as you would expect. I would bring Sandro Tonali in. I know there's a few people calling for Louis Miley to start. Louis Miley came on and was brilliant. He had an excellent game. But look, Sandro Tonali is the guy. And if he's fit and ready to play, he plays because he's the most important player, arguably, in this team right now. Like, he is that important to Newcastle United. He's a brilliant, brilliant player. And you want him playing in these type of games. I personally would choose Jacob Ramsey over Joe Linton. I personally would. I was really impressed with him. That's not to say that Eddie Howe won't choose Joe Linton. I think he probably will choose Joe Linton for this game. I think the physical aspect of the game and how physical he is, he'll be able to physically dominate the likes of Lukic, Berg, and King in that midfield. And I think that will be a crucial element to it. I would probably see it from a different perspective, but this is just my opinion. I would like to see Jacob Ramsey play again, because I loved and really liked what I saw from him. I really liked the fact that he was a player that technically was excellent. I thought he was very, very good on the ball. I think he can maybe unlock a potential low block if that's what Fulham do. And his runs that he makes are really, really intelligent. And I think with a good performance for 60 minutes, I think he should be rewarded with another start. But that's just my opinion. If Joe Linton starts, I'm fine with it because I can see why he's made that start. Anthony Gordon has to start this game. As I mentioned on the review, I want Harvey Barnes to continue to be a kind of player. Baltimore, if fit and will be fit, has to play. And yeah, I agree with you. Look, Anthony Elanga hasn't done enough to be able to start games for Newcastle United at the moment. And look, there's a few people on social media that are saying about Anthony Elanga wasting money, this, that, and the other. We have to remember, Anthony Gordon for 6 months was not very good when he first started. He was having bad game after bad game. It actually was very similar to Anthony Elanga in terms of like how bad the performances were. But there was a moment in where it clicked and it all fit into place. And now we're seeing Anthony Gordon as we saw on Tuesday night. We just have to be patient with Anthony Elanga. He's 23 years old. We're not talking about a 27, 28-year-old that we're expecting to hit the ground running and do the business right now. He's coming into a new team, new style of play, new expectations. We've got to give him that grace. So when Murphy's fit, absolutely play. And my only question mark about Murphy starting is because of his Achilles injury. Because they've been managing him the last 3, 4, 5 weeks because of his Achilles injury. Is he okay to play Tuesday and Saturday? If he is, he has to start. He has to start because he was excellent on Tuesday. He was so good. There's an understanding there with Bruno, with Nick Voltemade, with Anthony Gordon clearly, and we have to have that in our game. But if he's not, then Elanga comes in and gets an opportunity to prove his worth again. But I would agree with that, and I would stick with Murphy starting, providing that he's fit enough to play. So that would be only my only question mark on there is Jacob Murphy. Is he fit enough to play with his Achilles? I would have Ramsey instead of Joe Linton, and then every other person in the team is as it should be because they've earned the right to play. Again in another round. But I just wanted to talk about really quickly and come in if you disagree or we've got a different perspective on it. I'm looking at that midfield of Josh King, Lukic and Berg, and I think we physically dominate that midfield. I think we physically outrun that midfield. And I think that could be a crucial point in which we win the game. I'm also looking at Sven Botman and Malik Chow against Jimenez. Jimenez is very static in those middle areas. He doesn't like to venture out too far wide, not like he used to, in terms of running the channels like he did for Wolves. He tends to stay very, very central. And I think that music to Botman and Charles is, and I think they're more than good enough to manage him. My only question mark is here. Can Trippier, pace-wise, keep tapped with Iwobi? I think Murphy's got the beating of Sessegnon because he's not defensively minded as a left back. I think Gordon's got the beating of Tete, as good as he is. I think he's got the beating of him. And Nick Voltermader, I think, could, with Joachim Andersen not playing, I think this is music to Nick Voltermader's ears. I think Nick Voltermader should be targeted at least one goal, maybe two in this game, because that centre-back pairing there can be got at. There's no doubt about it. So they're just my thoughts on that. But anything to add, Chris?
Just to say, mate, yeah, I think Nick Voltermader is going to be key in this game. We've spoken about it a lot recently, haven't we? And I think actually that Nick Voltermader, because he's going to drop deep, I think he's going to occupy Sasa Lukic and Sanderberg quite a fair bit. And if he does, that then is going to free up space for Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton, possibly Jacob Ramsey, to then really get forward. And then if we overload that central defensive position for Fulham, that's when we're going to get our joy. And obviously, because Nick Voltermader drops deep, it then allows Anthony Gordon to go straight up against Issa Diop if he gets past Kenny Tete. And obviously, Jacob Murphy, who you've already mentioned, should get the better of Ryan Sessegnon. And then he's going to be one-on-one head up against Batty. So I think it's a really good opportunity, for those midfield runners to really make that impact.
Yeah, I agree. I agree across the board, which then brings us to our final thoughts. So looking at predictions, mate, what are you going for the game? We got a 2-0 defeat from Emilio. I think Steve Reynolds in the chat, also a Fulham fan, he went for 3-0 Newcastle. They're both thinking it could be a defeat. I think Emilio went possibly at his most positive 2-1 to Newcastle. What do you think the score is going to be, mate?
Do you know what I always think of the score at the very start of the show, and Emilio said the score that I think it's going to be. I think we're going to keep a clean sheet, and I think it's going to be 2-0 Newcastle. I think we'll score 2 goals. Peter Griffin saying 3-0. 3-0 would be great, wouldn't it? It would be absolutely fantastic.
That's my prediction. I'm going to go one better. I'm going to go. I think it's going to be 3-0.
Oh, look at that. 2-0. 1-0.
I feel confident in our defence. I feel our attack is just kicking into gear. I think with their injury problems, I think they've got important players that make their team better that are missing. No, Robbie Clark, we wish. Hopefully an early 2 or 3 goals would just settle everyone's nerves and just kick us into gear. And hopefully that could be a scoreline. But I'm going to go for 3-0. I think the players are brimming with confidence now. And we can go on and really put a statement win out there in the Premier League to kick us into gear. That is for sure. So 2-0 for Chris, 3-0 for me. Put your scorelines in as we wrap up. And yes, Peter Griffin, although Chelsea are in direct competition with us, a 9-0 against Sunderland wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, that is for sure. But look, we're coming to the end of the show. Massive thanks to everyone in the chat. Your comments, your questions, your contributions are fantastic. Again, spread this, tell a friend to tell a friend. Let people know that Loaded Mag at NUFC, I've done a show about the preview. Let them know our channel. Let them know where you can find us. Pass it on via the link. And, of course, like, comment, and subscribe. And, of course, hype the channel once the show has finished. The only question left is, Chris, what we're signing out?
It's a great question. So we signed up at the Champions League on the previous show. We signed out with the Bruno Guimaraes, which we hadn't had for a while on the last show. I think the Eddie Howe, because Eddie Howe needs to get this right at the weekend, and we need to make sure that he puts the right 11 out, and we want to see an attacking performance, and we want to see plenty of goals. So I'm going to say the Eddie Howe.
Ooh. Eddie Howe to see us out. People, you take care. Big match preview is out. We'll speak to you on the reaction. See you soon.
How you like?